Welcome back to Virginia this morning, live here on CBS 6. Our next guest believes in emphasizing a holistic approach toward food, nutrition, and preventative health care. Recently, Jessica spoke to Nicolette Pace. Here is that conversation.
If you're feeling lethargic or sluggish, perhaps you need to hit the dietary reset button. Our next guest has helped everyone from models to actresses and even TV personalities tweak their diets to work for their lifestyles. We welcome celebrity nutritionist Nicolette Pace to Virginia this morning. It's wonderful to see you.
Bill, good morning. Glad to be here.
This is the time of year, Nicolette, that we are very focused on resetting, setting intentions for the year, and frankly, making up for maybe some choices we made over that extended holiday season. You have some great insights on hitting that reset button, especially if you are feeling lethargic and just really need to kind of clear things out and freshen the air.
Absolutely. It's no better time, especially now, because I think we've been on a whirlwind for the last year with, the COVID, people like stuck in the house and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's not a better time to just really do that reset. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll be honest, and you raise a great point, Nicolette. This past year, I've read how many articles on how much comfort food we're consuming, which is also not the stuff that keeps you, running in tip-top shape. Let's start with your number one tip and kind of work our way through of what you recommend for hitting that reset button.
Number one, hydration is very, very important. And there's a lot of discussion about, doing like a cleanse with like cayenne pepper and lemon juice. But it's actually good. It does tone the system. And if you are going to supply your body with adequate hydration, I suggest it should be between meals. Drinking copious amounts of fluid when you're eating actually doesn't work, because what it does do is it flushes the food out. And you're not going to stay as full as long as you should be. But certainly, warm liquids now, especially in the winter, very, very important. It does tone the system. Lemon juice, ginger, cayenne pepper, all these other things that are talked about. But they're adequate sources of hydration, and they do a really good flush for your body. Very good.
Yeah. That hydration definitely makes a huge difference. And that's such an excellent thing to consider too. When you are eating, you don't want to consume all your liquids at that point, because they're kind of, fighting with each other in a way. It's make sure you hydrate throughout the day.
Yeah, actually, if call to mind, in a New Year's Day where they have that eating contest and they see how many hot dogs you can eat at one time.
Oh, yeah.
There's a methodology to how you can actually consume 30 or 40 Frankfurters. And one of that involves taking a lot of fluid to stretch the stomach as much as possible. Ooh. Quite interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So one of those thoughts too, okay, staying hydrated. What's your number 2 tip?
Plate your food. Doing family style at the table doesn't work, because you're tempted to go back for more and more. So I call it getting served. Plate it out in another room, bring it to the table, like if you were in a restaurant, let's say. And you're more than likely just to eat what you are, comfortable with, instead of you more than likely going to be tempted to keep picking. So that's going to bring in more and more, and you're full already. So it's like a misnomer to do that.
That's great. And we are spending so much time at home, so it's easier to do with plating and doing. And I've heard, when you're out at a restaurant, sometimes go ahead and get that carry out box and put half your meal in it, so that you're just essentially dividing what you're planning on eating. What's your number 3 tip?
And people are always afraid of this. It's portions. And in my tens of thousands of patients that I've treated, people are so afraid of it. They run away. That's why they keep buying stuff that's ready made, because people are frightened with it. And I'm going to give you an old carpenter term: measure twice, cut once. All you have to really do is look at your familiar serving bowls, etc., and see exactly how much does it hold. And that's it. You only have to do it once. From that point on, you know exactly what you're doing. Just spend a little time. It's less than a day, and you'll get it all down. So portion is very important. That's the best way to do it.
Isn't that funny? You raise a great point. Sometimes when you've poured, into a certain glass, and then you use a different glass, and you're like, oh boy, that really filled this one up. So having a more accurate idea of what the size is would make a huge difference.
Absolutely. And it's really not difficult, but I tell you, people are frightened. Oh my God, portions. Like, what do I do? It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
You tend to use the same thing over and over again, like the same bowl for cereal, the same glass for juice, et cetera, et cetera. It's not a big deal, but it's definitely worth your while to know what you're doing.
Right, right. A big deal to make sure that you know what you're doing. As we get towards the end of our conversation, I know you've got many more insights for us. What's next? What's another great tip that we should put into
Wow.
play?
Watch the caffeine. People like to go 24/7, but I like to do an analogy. It's like, would you give a bear a Red Bull in the winter? You better be ready for that
No.
outcome. So you can't. I mean, you got to rest. Winter's a time for rejuvenation, not necessarily hibernation and couch potato, but really. So be careful with the caffeine because we just go overboard with it. And technically, sometimes it actually stimulates your appetite. So a reasonable amount is fine, but you could try other things that have caffeine in them: tea, yerba mate, matcha tea, all kinds of stuff. But when you look at how much coffee we actually drink and the sizes, woof, they're like 16 ounces.
Mm-hmm.
In the old days, they were
Mm-hmm.
like 6 ounces a cup of coffee. So it's interesting. Another one that's over the top, portion sizes.
Yeah, again, back to that portion control conversation and being familiar with how much you are actually doing. Okay, time for one more tip. This is your number one all out favorite tip for that reset.
Wow, there's so many. Look, go with the probiotics. There's really good research behind probiotics as being an aid to weight loss. Really, it really does help. The mechanism isn't fully illustrated, but it does work. We're still trying to identify the strains that do this and that, but yes, absolutely, work them in. And it's not just yogurt; it's fermented foods, it's kombucha, it's all kinds of stuff. Very good for your body and your immunity.
I was going to ask, yeah, that gut health is key. And do you advocate for doing it by way of foods that you're consuming or taking a supplement or both?
Both, actually. And one of the things I like is I've come up with what I call a superbiotic yogurt. So it's a homemade yogurt, not difficult to make, but adding actually a probiotic supplement to it. So now you're really punching it up.
Wow.
It's medicine.
My brain just went right to making this happen because I think there's a yogurt button on that Instant Pot that I have, and maybe I need to put it into action.
It does. It does everything. That thing is amazing. Those multi cookers, they do everything. Pressure cooker, they do everything.
It really
great
is
device.
amazing. Nicolette, It's
Absolutely.
been wonderful talking with you. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you.
And
You
do
have a
you
great
mind
day.
going in? Thank you. You too. I hope she doesn't mind going into the future if I use that. Would you give a bear a Red Bull in the winter? That is great. Everybody's always going to answer no to that. So if you need to employ it, that's a good one to
But you
use.
better be ready for
Nicolette.
the outcome. That's a damn sure. Oh my
Great
God. Can you
tips,
imagine?
Nicolette.
I love
Wonderful to kick off the year with you. Thank you so much. Nice talking with you. We'll share all the information so that you can learn more about Nicolette and the insights that she's offering. That'll be on our website, wtdr.com/VTM.
Yeah, nobody wants a bear with wings. All right. That's not good. Great information there, though. One of the first things about halfway through there, she was talking about just go ahead and plate your food instead of having that big bowl of mashed potatoes and gravy on the table or whatever. You can have it, but you're only going to have this much. And I think this is things probably our moms just knew naturally, or their moms had taught them. And somehow we got way off the trail. But, from going to having a cup of coffee to having a big mug of coffee and say, oh, I've had 2 cups. No, you've had 8 cups.
Well, there was so much. There was so much with Nicolette to take as a breakout. One of my favorites is, and I would just love to walk around and shout this all day, gut health. Gut health is key. And I could have talked at length with her about that and getting that yogurt going. But you're right on those portions. Like, okay, so I peeped over and was like, well, I might be on my 3rd cup of coffee.
No.
I'm justifying. It's home. Maybe that's not right. These are more than 6 ounces. It's a lot of coffee. So you have to mind your P's and Q's.
Yeah, that was really good information. And, it's just a lot of it's common sense that most of us have kind of forgotten. I mean, even the plate, like I'm a mid-century classic. So When I was a kid, the plates were like this big. Now they're this
Yes.
big.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, that's different. You're right. It's like that's increased. You have to be aware of that. I read a tip last night. As a matter of fact, I was finally catching up on my December issue of Southern Living because I'm a little behind. And the suggestion there was use smaller serving spoons for like when you put stuff out, not like a huge one, a smaller one. And then maybe you won't scoop as big. I don't know. It resonated.
Got to make it work.
Yep. Hope the morning's resonating with you, friends. We're coming back right after this short break. Stay right here with us.